Yeah, well, it's a lot more overcast today. As you said, we saw those record-breaking temperatures not far from where we are in Leadenham, Coningsby, which was 40.2 degrees, I think it was, the hottest day, the hottest temperature ever recorded in Britain. As you say, farmers, they'll be out in the fields all day trying to get through this hot weather period. One of those farmers who is trying to manage his land at the moment is Andrew Ward. Andrew, you've got wheat, you've got all sorts of different crops here as well. How has it been trying to farm them over this period of a heatwave?
Well, we've had a couple of days of 40 degrees heat, which, yes, is absolutely unbelievably hot. And the crops have suffered, but we've been having droughts for the last few weeks and the last few months, so these crops have been affected for some time. We've got vegetable farmers not far from here who hand-pick a lot of crops, and they've struggled with that. The workers couldn't work in the heat, and, yes, so some of the crops have suffered as a result.
We've seen a lot of city fires in London, but we've also seen a lot of grassland fires, woodland fires, and farms catching fire. What would it mean for a farmer right now if they did experience this? What would it actually be like for them?
Well, it's something you can't do anything about, but having a fire across a field of wheat, such as this one behind me, would be absolutely catastrophic. You spend your whole year growing it, put in the ground invariably September, October. You can't get insurance on something like this, so you'd actually lose the whole of that crop and that income from that crop. You've had all the input costs of spend on that crop and no return. And also, don't forget that the straw from that crop might actually go to animal feed. So you might have sheep and cattle in Wales or Cumbria would be relying on that straw to bed down with and feed in the winter, and they won't have that. And then also you've got the wildlife and the environmental damage from the fires as well. So it is a really, really big problem.
Behind us we've got golden yellow wheat. It isn't quite ready yet, but when it is, it might be going to supermarkets where consumers might be buying it. Right now the cost of everything is going up. We've seen 9.4% inflation for the consumer price index. What's inflation like for you as a farmer at the moment?
Well, if I'd got agriculture inflation here at 9.4%, I'll be jumping up and down with joy, because at the minute agriculture inflation is running to an average of about 25 or 6%. But we have some products, nitrogen fertiliser that this crop behind me has been used on to grow. Nitrogen fertiliser has gone up 400%. We've got fuel has gone up 200%. My biggest tractor on the farm, it takes red diesel, 1,800 litres to fill that tank. That's over £2,100 to fill that tractor, and that one tank full will last 3 days, that is all. We then have combines to operate as well with fuel, so 9.4% for me would be absolutely joyful.
And having those prices go up for nitrogen and for fuel, what impact does that have on what you can do here as a farmer in Lincolnshire?
Well, we're doing everything we can to try and minimise the impact. We use all the technology we can to see how much nitrogen is in the soil, because there is some nitrogen in the soil from the previous crop. So we're utilising all the technology so we don't over-apply nitrogen on any of the crops, and using previous crops and pulling nitrogen from the atmosphere as well. So we're using everything we can to try and help us.
I'm sure watching things like the heat wave and the prices go up, it can be quite stressful right now as a farmer. But having done this for such a long time in Lincolnshire, I'm sure it's not a job that Andrew will be willing to give up anytime soon. But back to you in the studio now, Liam.
Thank you, Will. And good to hear from Andrew Ward there down on the farm in Lincolnshire.